Nancy Pelosi directly and
Yeah.
says, if you'll send me a bill that's just immediate cash payments to people, I'll sign that today.
Yup. All right, good morning. It's Wednesday, and we are on to some WTF CNN. Um, and Cameron just mentioned something in the president's Twitter feed. Let's pull that up real quick. And we'll take a look at what he's actually been saying. But first, let's jump after the CNN article in question this morning. So here we go. WTF CNN. Trump halted stimulus talks. Here's what it means for you. Oh, Trump halted the stimulus talks. Okay, I'll give you this one, CNN. That is a technically true statement. Millions of Americans are still out of work, says CNN. Many small businesses and major airlines are struggling to stay afloat, and states are still contending with massive budget gaps. Yes, that is technically true. Now, the implication that that is Donald Trump's fault, we've talked about this before on the show. One of the baseline Democrat truths is that part of being a leftist is wanting to have it both ways. You know, like saying uh, men can be women and women can be men. Oh, but also there's no such thing as biological sex. Well, if men can be women and women can be men, then there has to be. If there's not two things to choose from, then how do people get to choose between the two things?
I know, right?
Right? And I mean that's just one example. There are plenty. Um,
They are voluminous.
and oh my God. So this is another case of trying to have it both ways. It it cannot be that Donald Trump is a tyrant, and or I'm sorry. Okay, so it started off. Oh, he's a tyrant. He's gonna do all this crazy stuff. It's gonna be martial law. It's blah 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 because of the COVID, and then oh, he didn't. Oh, what's that? What's that? You mean between BLM and Antifa burning down cities and establishing things like the Chaz, the evil Trump Hitler tyrant did not give you the Kent State moment you were begging for? Because let's make no
Yeah.
mistake, there are a couple of big objectives that they're trying to achieve with the riots. One of those is they're actively trying to martyr their own supporters for the explicit purpose of establishing the next Kent State event.
Yep.
They
Oh, yeah.
want their own supporters to die in the street so that they can point at it and say, "Look at this evil man. Look at this evil man." Right?
This is why it was so important that they jump all over Kyle Rittenhouse because they needed a villain. They needed a white villain. And it's why, oh, he's a white supremacist and all that other, like, totally unfounded stuff.
Yeah, God forbid you offer evidence to your claim. Ooh.
Have you seen the Tim Pool thing where he interviews the reporters who were literally feet away from the
Yes.
entire incident?
Yes, and their story, I mean, if their story is to be believed at all, then it could not be a more clear-cut case of self-defense. Because we're not with the Rittenhouse story, you're not talking about I was defending myself from an armed man. No, he was defending himself from an armed mob that was actively committing arson against businesses. And as he attempted to prevent them from setting a gas station on fire with a dumpster, they attempted to murder him with weapons both projectile and of blunt make.
So yeah, I mean, but this goes back to something we talked about over and over and over again. How it is fake news. How we know exactly what Donald Trump means when he says the media is the enemy of the people. He,
Uh,
read, read you some Bertrand Russell, okay? Understand emotive conjugation. Understand that words have a technical definition and an emotional definition. And depending on the context of which you're talking, those can be radically different from one another and still be simultaneously true. So he doesn't mean that we need to go burn CNN down, though BLM might give that crack. But he means the enemy of the people in the sense that they do actively spread misinformation. I mean, they are full blown fucking Pravda.
um,
Yes. Do I need to keep talking so you can harass people in our chat?
I just asked Steve if that's better. I think. Okay, so let me address the chat for a moment. We've got Ada Cox this morning. Steve's with us. Lindsay's with us. Zaluska the Slav, Dave Bowen. Good to see all you guys. There are some complaints in the thread. There are some complaints this morning, Cameron. Specifically, Lindsay says, "Oh my God, Cameron, fix your life. That sound is murder to my ears." So, yes, we will be investing in some better audio equipment for Cameron. We will attempt to correct his inadequacy with technical training and probably some small expenditure.
I'm so very sorry, Lindsay. I promise. I promise. I am in the process of fixing my life.
And we will say no more on the topic. So, the article from CNN, they're trying to gaslight you. Oh, this is all Trump's fault. It's all Trump's fault. You don't have a relief bill yet. Okay. First things first on this. Before I get into the truth of the matter, let me tell you my truth, man. Let me tell you. Here's my truth. You don't. Yes, if you cram a frickin' stimulus check up my ass against my will again, I will spend that money, because what else am I going to do? What's my alternative? But oh my God, let it happen. Back up and let the bank fail. Now, are some people hurting? Absolutely. Is that the fault of the government? Absolutely. In fact, in particular, it is the fault of a bunch of Democrat governors and mayors who let's be clear on this, they did not overreact to the pandemic. They didn't misjudge the severity of the pandemic and take actions that would have been unreasonable if they had better known what the situation was. No. They took the fact of a pandemic and went out of their way to overreach and use more powers than they are permitted by the law. They went out of their way to expand themselves and reach and grab greater and greater power. That is the truth of the matter.
And then they mocked anybody that tried to be hopeful. I mean, do you remember the one that sticks out for me is when Trump said, hopefully we can have, I forget the exact quote, but he basically said it'd be nice if we can have an Easter miracle. Now,
Right.
I mean, we're still largely a Christian country, and even if you're not a Christian, there's a certain sentimentality to it that is hopeful. That's something that's easy to understand. Oh, we're talking about the resurrection of Christ, and we're also talking about the resurrection of our economy. And this stupid virus actually starts to go away. And they just trashed him for it. So to suggest that somehow this is Donald Trump's fault, it's the government's fault for sure. I mean, let's go all the way back to when they deliberately lied to us about the masks. I mean, seriously, because they didn't want to cause an accidental PPE shortage.
Yeah,
And
and on real quick on that Easter miracle thing, it's that's another one where it just amazes me how these media moguls can just lie, can just make something up out of almost entirely out of whole cloth. Um, because the statement was, it's almost Easter Sunday. Hopeful, let's hope for an Easter miracle. And at the time, we had seen a big spike in cases and had started to see a sudden and dramatic decline in cases, and we were coming to the end of the 15 days to slow the spread, the 15 days to flatten the curve. The curve was flattened. We had been promised at the top end of all that that's what it was going to be. That we might be looking at at an extension of another 15 days, but as we were approaching Easter, Trump delivered a hopeful message, and hey, let's hope and pray for the Easter miracle. Wouldn't it be wonderful if miraculously the virus disappeared and we could go back and we could go about our lives again? And the reporting on it was, Donald Trump says you should go to church on Sunday despite the global pandemic, claiming that the virus will magically, miraculously disappear. It's going to just disappear like a miracle, says Donald Trump. No. That statement is not misleading. That statement is not mischaracteristic. It's an outright, intentional lie. It's not a mistake. It's not a misprint. It's not a misquote. It's not a paraphrasing. It's a bald-faced lie.
well, so many things about this whole coronavirus situation have just been such a deception. I mean, do you remember way back in the day, like it was supposed to be a temporary shutdown and it was to flatten the curve, and it was to flatten the curve for a very specific reason. We didn't want to overwhelm our medical system. We didn't
Right.
want to just suddenly run out of ICU beds overnight. That's what it was. It was never, we're going to have a cure. We're going to stop people from getting the virus. I mean, it's out there. There's no stopping people from getting this
Right,
virus.
and the math on that was that the total number of cases would not change. That with the curve flattened, you would still have the same total number of cases, but you would have them over a longer period of time, so you could deal with them more efficient, in less of a panic, so that you could deal with them better.
And I'd say we far and away accomplished those goals. So now here we are. We're at this point. We've already done one stimulus, and I I shudder to think at what my stimulus money went to. Um, yeah,
I
just gonna
could
move right
guess.
past that one.
I
Just
know
gonna move
exactly
right
what my
past.
stimulus money went to: a brake job and a new washing machine.
I wish that's what mine went to. But moving on.
I don't.
Um,
I'd have rather bought a camera, but whatever.
but here we are. We're trying to make the best of a bad situation. Um, you know, for better or worse, Donald Trump can't really force these governors to open. He can encourage, he can withhold funds, he can do all sorts of things. But I mean, even going back to like the protests and everything, he keeps trying to work with the governors of these states and cities, well, mayors of cities. So, what do you guys need? What do you guys need? And they won't work with him. And they won't work with him because they can't stand the thought of giving him a win, even if it's just an optics win. They can't stand the thought. So now here we are. Donald Trump has put it out there that he'd do another round of stimulus. It's just stimulus. You don't attach all this pork barrel bullshit to it. If if you really believe giving people money directly in their pocket is what's best for everybody, it shouldn't be that hard to just pass, a two-page bill that does it.
And
And
I'm
it,
glad you said that. You've just managed our segue very nicely. Well, crap. How about now? Do you have the audio back? Okay, let me go
Hello,
back up to
hello.
the. Okay, they lost all our audio. I fixed it. Uh, okay, somebody give me a thumbs up in the chat. Let me know you can hear me again. I'm gonna just start reading from the top of the list again because that's probably what you missed. So Tom Cotton puts out what was trying to be
Hey, just
crammed
real
into the
quick,
bill.
do you realize every time you make fun of my inadequacy, you fuck something up? It's like karma, baby. I love it.
That's okay. That's adorable. Corporate pay statistics by race and race statistics for all corporate boards at companies receiving assistance. Bail out all current debt. Bail out all current debt of postal service. Required early voting. Required same-day voter registration. 10K bailout for student loans. Companies accepting assistance required 1/3 of board members chosen by workers. Provisions on official time for union collective bargaining. Full offset of airline emissions by 2025. Greenhouse gas statistics for individual flights. Retirement plans for community newspaper employees. Jesus. $15 minimum wage at companies receiving assistance. Permanent paid leave at companies receiving assistance. Permanent paid leave. Guys, that's the Green New Deal. And there's a reason this sounds like pure communism. Because it is. So, this idea that Trump halted the stimulus talks, yeah, Trump decided to put his foot on the brake and pull the car over because the engine is on fire. And it has been for 7 months. I don't know what else you could want him to do with it, but for real, that there's going to be another stimulus payment looks like it's basically a foregone conclusion. Our shitburger government is just going to go ahead and just piss a whole boatload of money right back up our asses, and everybody's going to think that's such a great thing. Oh, hey, I've got a little money. It comes from somewhere. And little word of wisdom, just you're watching Facebook, you're watching YouTube right now. You're watching us on YouTube, right? For free. You're not paying me to talk to you right now. That means you're the product. You go to Facebook, Facebook's a free service. If you're not paying for a service, you are the product. You are the eyeballs that are being sold to advertisers. I'm sure you've noticed the absolute just slog of advertising that we're dumping in your face every day, right? That was sarcastic. We don't run ads right now. Which, by the way, is not to say that I'm not willing to accept sponsors here and there, but we're not doing that right now. We have reached out to the audience once in the past to help fund a film production, and you guys came through, basically bought us $400 worth of groceries to feed a crew of 12 for 5 days, which I'm sorry, crew of 9 for 5 days, which, by the way, mostly went to meat and beer. But the
I think it
idea
was
of just,
understood that that was what they were funding.
yeah, obviously. And when you see that film, you'll very clearly see all of the meat. But it's so anyway. Um, so I'm gonna pop back over to the chat for just a second because Krista says, "Cameron, you're making me nervous. Look at the road." Zaluska the Slav mentions the horse cheese,
I am
and
looking at the road.
I'm very happy with the horse cheese. Um, you can do a
So I'm
Patreon
glad I
thing where
made
people
Kristen
who
nervous.
donate can request a topic. Krista suggests we do a Patreon thing where people who donate request a topic. You know, we tried Patreon in the past, but after Patreon just completely cucked to Antifa and the radical left. I shut down our Patreon. We don't use it at all. I have tried to. I've started the process to set up a subscribe star. That is a much longer application and approval process than I had anticipated, but it's in progress. Uh, and yes, Steve, hooray for meat and beer. Um, so, I think the long and the short of this conversation, though, basically is it is only technically true that Trump. It is technically true that Donald Trump shut down the talks on the stimulus, but this is something where Nancy Pelosi has been playing games on it for a while. Um, oh God, Cameron, you got to mute yourself, brother. You're killing me. I'm getting this squeak, and suddenly I'm getting a lot of feedback from you. So, not good. Anyway, the long and the short is, yes, Donald Trump shut down the conversation. He shut down the stimulus talks, but from the get go, Nancy Pelosi has been playing games where she flies back into town at the last minute after having been out of town all weekend, and flies in at the last minute to say, no, we want to add extra demands, even though all the other Democrats have already agreed to the plan as is. She keeps jumping in and shutting it down and trying to make demands, and the demands that she's making are ridiculous things, most of which are either attached to direct government takeover of private business, implementation of actual communism, or active measures to alter the rules on the voting for this upcoming election. So basically, the Democrats have been delaying the stimulus checks, which, I reiterate, I oppose the issuance of the stimulus checks 100% from the word go. Okay, 99.9%, because there is an argument to be made that you've got my money and I'd like it back. But short of that, as far as the question of government spending, I pretty much oppose government spending generally. Okay, listen, Uncle Sam. Taxation happens at the end of a gun. It's this simple. It's time to move your broke ass off my sofa and get a damn job, U.S. government. But anyway, what you have is Pelosi and the Democrats playing these games and just constantly, oh yeah, well, we'd love to help the American people, but only if you'll implement full Soviet Marxism. Wait, what? What? Oh, you'll pay everybody's rent if we just hand over the boards of all the companies? You'll pay everybody's rent if we just go ahead and start actively forcing companies to make their hiring decisions based exclusively on racial composition? Right? Nancy Pelosi suddenly looks a hell of a lot like the Wholeness from Postman walking down a row of at gunpoint involuntary conscripts and inspecting their teeth and noses for suitable ethnic foundations. Go ahead, Cameron. What you got?
No, I think that's actually a good place to button it up, because I mean you nailed it. Because it's not, to be very accurate, he didn't stop the stimulus negotiation. He stopped the backdoor fuck you in the ass socialist takeover that was attached to the stimulus negotiation. And that's all I got. I'm going to go back to mute so I don't piss you off.
Well played. That's a good plan. So, hopefully what happens is all of the obvious voter fraud and corruption that's ongoing fails to prevent a fair election from occurring this November. I say hopefully. That's well, I'm less and less salient about the security of the upcoming election every day, especially after the Patreon leak on the just active no shit vote buying that's happening in the Brotherfuckers district. But well,
Wait, you said Patreon. I assume you mean Project Veritas?
did I say Patreon? Yeah, I meant Project Veritas. My bad. Good catch. I think in a fair election this November, assuming a fair election this November, that America, by and large, if you're watching the support numbers and the way they're changing, the just absolute hemorrhaging of support of Black Lives Matter, and the nice steady climb of support of the president and approval of the president, I suspect that an untampered election this November would result in Republican control across the board, House, Senate, and obviously the White House. And that could, God, one of the things that just aggravates crap out of me, though, is that if the Republicans take control of everything, the best we can hope for is that they do a bunch of unreasonable spending without the commies. So, I mean, after the election, we're looking at unreasonable taxpayer expenditure, and the question is not whether or not a bunch of money is spent irresponsibly. The question is it done with or without the commies involved? So, that's all I've got for today. Cameron, do you have anything else to add before I button it up? I'm going to take that as a no. All right, y'all be safe out there, and we will see y'all tomorrow.